Evening, everybody who's joining us on Facebook and YouTube tonight. Welcome to Girls Alive's third Skills Alive in 30 session. Tonight we have got with us Lisa Bywell, who has very generously given her time this evening to share some of her road safety tips with us. Now, Lisa joined Girls Alive in the very early days, probably about 2.5 years ago now. And since then, she has trained as a bikeability instructor and she works for Surrey County Council. So, in fact, she's probably trained some of your children. If you've got children in year 6, she may well have done your children's bikeability for you. So she's going to pass on all that safety knowledge to us this evening. Because obviously you can't talk to us, we have got the chat box open. So if you've got any questions for Lisa, just pop them in the chat box. I'll keep an eye on that. If they're relevant at the time, then I'll put them to Lisa for you. And otherwise, we'll maybe save them until the end. So we've got a few little slides to go through, which I've looked through. And actually, it's a brilliant explanation of what we sort of feel like everybody should know. And in fact, a lot of us, unless you've recently done a ride leader course or cycle safety course, you wouldn't necessarily know all this stuff. So it's really great that Lisa's going to go through it with us tonight. All right, so feel free to put anything in the chat box and I'll hand over to you now, Lisa. You don't forget to tell me when you want me to shift on with the slides.
Right, yes, so next slide, please. Thank you. So do you want to move on to the 4 core skills?
Is it working now? Hang on a sec. Tech issues. Sorry, ladies. There we go.
Right, excellent. Thank you. So first of all, I'm going to talk about the 4 core habits of a good cyclist. And this is basically what the foundation of bikeability is when we're teaching the children. We're trying to teach them these 4 skills here. So making good and frequent observations. That essentially means looking around all the time. Communicating intentions clearly to others, for example, signaling. That's a hard word to say, signaling. Choosing and maintaining the most suitable riding positions is what we're going to talk about now. And the final one is understanding priorities on the road, particularly at junctions. So, for example, who goes first on the main road and the side road. So that's it in a nutshell, those 4 skills. If you can remember those, you're fine. Right, next one, please. Thanks, Alana. Right, so the 2 main positions, secondary and primary. The first one I'm going to talk about is the chap in the blue top. He's in his secondary position. This is what we refer to as your normal riding position. Now, there's a very technical explanation about how far you should be from the traffic and how far you should be from the curb, but it's not very realistic on UK roads to talk about those distances. And also children don't understand that. So with children, you have to explain it to how they can understand it clearly. So we talk about to the left of the stream of traffic, which they do understand. And we say approximately an arm's length from the curb is where you should be riding in your secondary position. This offers a driver space to overtake you if the road is wide enough. And you're basically saying to the driver, I'm happy to go second, you can go round me. That is the message you're sending, okay? Why an arm's length? So in the gutter, where children tend to be drawn towards the gutter, there is debris and there's glass and there's drains and it can cause accidents, it can damage your bike. So we never want to cycle in the gutter. You always want to cycle that arm's length from the curb. Also, you're more likely to be seen away from the curb, an arm's length from the curb, than you are to be seen in the gutter. And when you're on a bike, the most important thing is to see and be seen at all times. If you are visible and they can see you, then it's much safer cycling. Also, by leaving that little gap there on the left, which this guy has left, if a Tesco delivery van was to overtake you and become too close to your bike and you feel uncomfortable, you've left space there to move over. Now, if you're cycling in the gutter and a Tesco lorry comes around you and you're uncomfortable, you've got nowhere to go. So always leave yourself that little cushion of space on the left so you've got somewhere to go if you don't feel safe. So that's our secondary.
I hadn't actually thought about that, Lisa, that last point you made. That's a really good point. Just gives you a little bit of an escape.
You always need a bit of space around you. Otherwise, you've got nowhere to go.
Yeah, that's just one of the things I always, with the beginners course that we do, it's one of the things we always talk about right at the beginning is not riding in the gutter, because you're absolutely right. There's so much debris, you're likely to get a puncture, and there's all sorts of dangers, isn't there?
More likely to have an accident in the gutter. But the thing is, there's a myth that you're safer at the curb, and we
Yeah.
obviously have to tell people you're not safe at the curb because no one can see you. You have to be seen, and then people can react. So that's your secondary position. And moving on to our primary position, which is the next one. So this lady cyclist in green, she's in her primary position. So this is, as you can see, the center of the lane, and she's actually cycling as part of the traffic flow. Now, why would you want to be in the center of your lane? One of the main reasons is because you want to prevent cars from overtaking you. The message you're sending here is that I do not want to share the lane with you. I don't want you to overtake me. I want to go first. That's what you're telling people. Yet again, you're still very, very visible because you're out in the middle of your lane, so people can see you and you can see around you. But you are not happy to share that space at this moment in time. And it also might mean that you haven't been able to move out of the traffic flow for some reason, so you have to stay in it. So that is why you're in your primary position. So you can see on this diagram very clearly secondary and primary. Okay, thanks, Eleanor. So why might we move position? Now, don't get overwhelmed by this. There's loads of factors. You're not obviously thinking about this all the time, but there's a few things that might affect your position. So the width of the road, is it narrow or very wide? Do you want to cycle in the traffic or out of the traffic? Are you happy to give up your space for a car, or would you rather not have a car coming around you? Are you approaching a junction or a roundabout? Your own personal safety, how are you feeling about this space around you, like we were just talking about? How can you tell other road users what you're about to do on your bike? Oncoming traffic, sometimes these narrow roads, you have to think about what's coming towards you. How's that going to affect your journey? And obviously a really important one, visibility. Are you on the edge of their vision, or can they see you? Like where do you need to be on the road so that people can see you? Okay, so that's all the factors, which is going to come a bit more clearer as I move on through the slides. Thank you. Right, so going back to those basic 4 skills, we cannot tell children and cyclists enough, look behind you, look behind you, look behind you. You wouldn't cross the road as a pedestrian without looking left and right, and you wouldn't cross the road shutting your eyes either. So you wouldn't move your bike anywhere in the road unless you've looked over your shoulder. It just doesn't make any sense, okay? So you can see ahead, you can normally see in your peripherals, but where you can't see is over your shoulder. So always look behind you. So if you're in your secondary position and you want to move into your primary, you would look over your right shoulder, which is your traffic shoulder. If there's a car right behind you, you might not be happy to move. Just let that car go around you. Check again. There's nothing there. Then you can go into your primary. If there is a car behind you, but they're a bit further back, you could make eye contact. They might say, yeah, off you go. Then you can move into the center of your lane. Okay, so only move into the center of your lane when you're happy to do so. So when I'm cycling down from Dorking to Brockham, before I turn in right at the South Downs Cafe, there's a bit you always have to cross the lane. Really important, you're looking behind, making sure that car can see what you're about to do, and then you can cross over into your primary position. It's perfect. And then if you're moving from your primary into your secondary, you look over your left shoulder, because that's where you're moving. So wherever you're moving your bike in the road is where you look. So you look over your left shoulder because you've left a gap there and something might undertake you. Okay, so you look over your left shoulder and then you move back into your secondary. Okay, cannot say that enough. Look over shoulders. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to talk about your first primary position. So in this diagram here, we have a cyclist who wants to turn out of a side road onto the main road. So he's turning left. Now, we've already talked about how he got into the center of his lane. He looked behind him, he checked, he moved into the center of his lane. He may have signaled, depending if there's anything there to signal to. Now, what are the advantages of being in the center of the lane here? Imagine if you had stayed in your secondary position and you are now near the curb as you approach the junction. You've left a space on your right-hand side for the Tesco lorry, he's back, to come up next to you and stop next to you. Few problems here. You cannot now see up and down the road that you want to turn into. Also, if he turns left and has not seen you, he might box you in. And this is where we get a lot of fatalities, unfortunately, is cyclists being in that left corner when things turn left. Okay, so you do not want to be near that curb when you are turning out onto a main road. Can't say that word either. You do not want to be in the center of the road because traffic turning into that road there could unfortunately hit you if they can't see you. And also you've left a gap on your left now for a lorry or a car to come up, yet again, come into your space, and means that you can't see up and down the road. So center of your lane is the best place to be when you turn in and out of any junction, always the middle of your lane, okay? This also applies to single lane roundabouts. Yet again, look behind, move to the middle of your lane, stay there until you're through the roundabout, okay? It tells cars that you're about to do something. It stops cars overtaking you. It gives you better visibility. It means that people can see you. If cars can see you, they can react. If they can't see you, they can't, okay? So
and that is one of those things that people, sorry to interrupt, but I think that is one of those things that people just don't know, Lisa, that when you're coming up to a junction, that you have the right to take the middle of that lane there. Yeah, 100%.
Because it's a form of communication. So you can communicate, using your arms, you can use your eyes, you can turn your head, but your road position is your main form of communication as well. Because if you're in the middle of your lane, you're clearly about to do something, and you may have signaled to let them know where you're going. But if you're over on the curb, you could be stopping, for all they know, for a drink or a snack. You have to go in the center, always in the center of your lane, entering in or out of a junction. Never changes. Okay.
Next slide.
Yes, please. Now, I want to talk about the turning right from the main road to the side road, because technically, children find this quite challenging, and adults actually, because you're crossing two lanes of traffic. So people get a bit nervous because you're crossing your lane and you're crossing another lane. So this chap here, so I don't know whether it was male in these diagrams. He was in his secondary position and he wanted to turn right into the side road. So he's checked over his right shoulder. He's moved over. Now, this position is more like primary plus, because if he'd stayed in his primary, he could just be going straight on. But by going into this primary plus position, you can clearly see that he intends to turn right. Everyone knows he's turning right, okay? He's in his primary plus. Now, because you're crossing this second lane of traffic, obviously you have to give way to oncoming traffic. If there is something coming, you wait exactly in that primary plus position. If you go back to the curb, everyone's going to get really confused. They're like, are they stopping? Are they going straight on? Where's that cyclist going? And yet again, it's hard to persuade children to stay out there because they think, well, you can't stay in the middle of the road. But by being there, waiting for the oncoming traffic, you're sending a message, I'm going right. You can see I'm going right. Now, obviously, before you turn right, you're going to take over your right shoulder, check for any cars like rushing past you, okay? Never turn in right without going your right shoulder. And yet again, you enter in the middle of your lane. So the most important thing about this one is if you have to wait for oncoming traffic, which is highly likely, just stay exactly where you are. Make sure you can see down the side road. This guy's actually a bit too far back for my liking. I would wait further up, opposite the lane you turn into.
Yeah.
So by staying there, the cars behind know where you're going. Everyone knows where you're going, okay? Just clearly by being in that correct road position. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, you come in the middle of your lane. Okay. So that's just a particular one that people sometimes get a bit, because you're crossing all that traffic, but that's just how you do it there.
That's a really good one to see a diagram of, actually, and it'd be great for people to show their kids as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you don't want to be in the middle of the road, but you don't want to be in primary. So a little bit over so they can see where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's clearly stating your intention, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, right, one of my favourite pictures. So you often get traffic islands. For example, if you're cycling from Dorking to Brockham and you've just gone past Pixham Lane, the road goes down slightly and there's a traffic island right there, okay? And that means that the road gets quite narrow. Now, in that particular situation, I do not want a car to overtake me. So I've given you a picture of why I don't want that to happen, because this guy here, he stayed in his secondary position, as you can see, and this Ford car has just thought, well, I'm just going to nip past because I'm a car. And what's happened is that car is just a bit too close for my liking, okay? Basically, that cyclist was saying, well, you can overtake me. I'm going to leave some space for you to overtake me. The car's done that. And it's probably okay, but it's just, I would like to prevent that happening. So if you just show the next slide for me, Eleanor, I'll show you what I would do. I would do what this guy here has done. He has looked behind him. He's moved into the center of his lane, and he's sending a very clear message. I do not want you to overtake me. I don't want to share this lane. Now, a really good example of this, if you were cycling from almost going down Coast, you know where Coast Hill is, you're going all the way down to Coast Hill. It's quite steep, it's very narrow, and it's got a blind bend. I would never want to go secondary coming down that hill because it's so narrow. I don't want a car overtaking me on a descent as well because of the oncoming traffic. So Coast Hill is a really particular one for me because, you know, sometimes you think, oh, it's quite steep. So I would look behind me, move into the centre of my lane, even going down Ranmore, actually, I go in the centre of my lane because you want the car to stay behind you and you're perfectly entitled to do that. And the car cannot overtake you on a blind bend. It's not going to hit the car coming the other way and you're in your primary position. So this is a great one for when there's traffic islands or where you just think, you know what, I don't want a car to try and squeeze past me, like on these narrow country lanes. It's not safe. So I'm going to ask that person, please stay behind me. I'm in the centre of my lane. And you're probably right. You probably don't realise they can do that, but you can.
No, I don't think they do. And I'm sure that I've had several discussions with people actually out on rides, or particularly on beginners rides, where I've talked about that, taking the lane, I think they called it on the course that I did. And it's having the confidence, isn't it, to know that you are perfectly within your rights to be on the road, just the same as cars. Cyclists are.
And that's a big thing. Yeah, that's a big thing for kids because they think that cars are bigger, therefore they have all the right way. And we explain we're all following the same rules of the road. And because we know the rules and the cars know the rules, that's how everyone gets on. We're all following the same rules. So, yeah, it is a confidence thing, definitely.
Absolutely,
If you are worried about your own safety on a particular lane, look behind you, move into your primary position and stay there until you are happy to give up the lane again. That's how you need to think of it. Okay.
Yeah, that is a good way of putting it, actually.
The queuing traffic. Okay. So personally, when I'm queuing in traffic, and I've done this for years, I actually stay in the traffic flow as if I were a car. So I just go in my primary position all the way through the junction. A car stays behind me. There's a car in front of me, literally as if I'm a car. Okay. I think that's the safest thing to do. Everyone can see you. Now, on the left here, never, ever pass a vehicle on the left. One of the main reasons being that in this country, we sit on the right in our cars. So if you squeeze up the left here, person sitting on the right in his truck here, he can't even see you because you're on the left-hand side of his truck. So yet again, if he turns left, you're going to get boxed in. Yet again, major fatalities caused by this. He just can't see you. So never, ever, ever, ever go on the left, in my opinion. Now, if you have to pass, going on the right makes more sense because you're going to go past him, past his wing mirror, and he'll be able to see you coming past. But as I said, I just move with the traffic because you're going at the same speed as the traffic. Everyone can see you. You're in bright clothes. You're continuously looking around, always look behind, make eye contact with drivers around you, and just stay with the traffic. You're perfectly entitled to. And I think it's the safest place to be. But yeah, again, that takes confidence. People think they have to be on the left, away from the traffic, or you're in the way. You're not in the way. You've got every right to be there.
That's it. You're right. It is all about confidence, isn't it? And I think this is really helpful to build confidence. These slides, really good.
The parked car. So we live in a country full of parked cars. You don't get very far anywhere without having to go past parked cars. So I've given you a diagram here of a car door actually open, so you can see how wide a car door is. So you don't want to be any closer to that car than a car door and a bit more, because if you're not looking at the car and the car door opens, you're just going to hit that car door. So we're always a car door and a bit more away from a parked car. Now, sometimes this means you have to borrow a lane, and that's perfectly okay. As long as you've looked behind before you've pulled out and you've looked ahead, you can borrow the oncoming traffic's lane if there's no one coming down it. And therefore, give yourself some space, move over. Yet again, just keep checking behind you, stay away from the car. And then once you've passed that car, you can just look over your left shoulder and pull back into secondary. Obviously, if you are approaching a car and there's a car behind you, you get to go first anyway. You were there first, they have to come behind you. But you obviously need to be scanning ahead of you to see. And there is that lane as you cycle out of Brockham all the way down. You get all those parked cars on the left. That's quite narrow, actually. Yeah. So if there's cars coming, obviously it's their right of way. You have to pull over and just wait so where everyone can see you. Don't go to the curb, wait where everyone can see you. But once it's clear and you're happy to go, just use the space that you have in that other lane. But stay away from the parked car because it could drive off, they could open the door, anything could happen. And that's where we get a lot of accidents as well. So there's so many parked cars around, especially when you go around high streets. Okay. Now, multiple cars. Here I have some lovely school children going past 5 or 6 cars. Just telling people don't weave in and out of parked cars. Yet again, if you suddenly you're visible and then you're invisible and then you come back out again, and no one can see you, that's where we have accidents. So if you're passing multiple cars, just stay out. The car will have to wait behind you. You're fully entitled to be there. But don't think, I'll just nip in so this car can go around me. You just won't be seen. So just if you're going down a road and there's 5 or 6 cars, just pick your position, a door and a bit more away from the car, and then just go all the way down. Then once you pass the parked cars, you just pull back into your secondary position. That's the way to do it. Now, this is one that people might not be familiar with. So this cyclist is on the main road and she's passing a side road, which is very clearly marked here, but sometimes they're quite hidden. And she is in the primary position. So why is she in the primary position? There's a few reasons. I am repeating myself. These are the same rules. You do not want a car to overtake you and squash you into these dotted lines, okay? You do not want to be cycling on those dotted lines there. So if you move into your primary, the cars have to stay behind you. You've given yourself some space there. You're also communicating your intention that you're going straight ahead. If you stay in your secondary, the car behind thinks you're going left. You're at the curb. So the car's going to go, oh, let's pop round this cyclist, okay? By staying in the primary position and maintaining your speed, the car knows you're going straight ahead, not into the side road, which is great. You can also see down the side road, because I would want to know, if I was going past a side road, I want to know what's coming out the side road. Is there a truck coming out? Is there a motorbike? Is there another cyclist? So you can actually see better down the road because you're in your primary position as opposed to at the curb. You are more visible. One of the most important rules of cyclist. You can be seen. Fantastic. Also, we all know that when cars come out of these side roads, they don't just wait behind the dotted lines, especially if they've got long bonnets. They might peek out so they can see. So that there's likely to be a car sitting over the white lines. So you don't want to be anywhere near those white lines. So primary position, yet again, as you approach the side road, look behind you, move into your primary, cycle past the side road, have a quick squiz down the side road, see what's happening. And then once you're past the side road, look over your left shoulder, go back into secondary. And there you go, that's passing a side road. I mean, it's the one that most people forget, especially children, but it's just all the same things. Think about the message you're sending, whether you can see, whether you can be seen, just all those kind of things.
Yeah, I have to say that's one that I don't always do. That's a good reminder, actually, for me. I'm just thinking of several junctions now where that would be so important to be there.
Yeah. And it's just that whole visible thing. And you never know what's coming out the side road. So
absolutely. And as you say, again, it's that communicating. Don't overtake me. I'm not going left. I'm going straight on. You've been really without having to do that. I'm going straight on.
It's just your message. It's like, this is where I'm going. You can tell where I'm going because of my road position. So
it's good communication.
Cool. Right. My favorite. So my example for this one is, Small Hills Road, which is such a bad condition. There are so many potholes. I've had 2 punctures there. You can, especially in this weather, you're in and out those potholes. And as a cyclist, you don't want to cycle through that kind of road condition. So again, you're well entitled to look behind you, move out into your primary position until you're all the way around all those kind of obstacles that you don't want to. If you damage your bike, you could have an accident, all kinds of things could happen. And then once you're happy that the road is smooth again, you just look over your left shoulder and move back in. It's very common. Obviously, we don't really maintain our roads very well in this country. So it's highly likely that you're going to come across something that you don't want to cycle through. And as long as you've looked behind, like the worst thing you can do is not look behind and then just pull out. And then the car's like, I don't know what's happening. But just by turning your head, that car knows you're about to do something because they'll think, well, why is that cyclist looking behind? And you can make eye contact. You're clearly going to move out away from all those obstacles, away from the potholes or whatever you don't want to be in. And then once you're past that, look over your left shoulder, and then move back into your secondary position. So there's loads of reasons why you would move from primary to secondary and back, and you're completely fine to do that as long as you're looking behind all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. So multi-lane roundabouts, I mean, it's the same thing as a single lane roundabout. You start off in your secondary position, you check your right shoulder well in advance, pick which lane you're going to go in. There's normally 3 lanes. Make frequent observations because at multi-lane roundabouts, it's really important that you know what's going on everywhere because there's cars indicating the cars moving between lanes. It's really important that you're looking around, move into your primary position. And then when you get to the roundabout, you just give way. Yet again, I just act like a car. When I'm on a bike, kind of act like a car. I just do what a car would do. Look, signal maneuver, which we all learned in our driving tests years ago.
Yeah.
I say to the kids, look, signal, move to the middle. I always do a little dance as well to get them going. Look, signal, move to the middle. Look, signal, move to the middle. No different on your bike. It's exactly the same. And this will prevent cars overtaking. Yet again, see and be seen. Okay, it's really important. I actually forgot to say that when you're coming out of junctions, I think there might be one in Brockham. Sometimes you get really wide junctions. Okay, so obviously it doesn't make any sense to go in the middle of that lane. So what you do is imagine there's two lanes. There's one going left and there's one going right. And then you would pick, that makes sense. You would then pick where the middle line is in that lane. So I forgot to say that sometimes you do get these wide junctions and you don't want to take up the whole junction. So just imagine two lanes there. Okay. That's also roundabouts, which, is perfectly doable on a bike. Yet again, it's a confidence thing. Just look around. I can't say look around enough. Look around. So just a summary. Okay. It is one of the vital forms of communication on your bike. Your road position tells people what you're doing and it allows them to react. So if you look behind you, move to the center of your lane, the car thinks, right, I'm going to stay behind this bike. Okay. If you're in your secondary position, the car's going to think, well, I'm just going to go around this bike. Okay. So you can just use that position to help how you want to basically control the space around you. That's what you're doing. You're controlling your own space. Okay. So it affects other road users, and it does. It makes them either wait behind you or whatever they want to do. And it helps you, and I guess this is the whole point of this, it helps you to ride assertively, and I don't mean aggressively, I mean assertively. And I understand with children, we teach children who have never cycled on a road before in their lives, and then 5 days later you can see the confidence creeping in because all of a sudden they know the rules of the road, and they learn that if you hesitate when a car's about to do something, the car will just take the advantage. They always do. Okay. So if you hesitate or give the wrong message, that's when people get confused. So if you're assertive and confident when showing the road, then everyone kind of knows what's going on. But I do understand that takes a long time to build up, and that's absolutely fine. Continuously evaluate your road position. Always be thinking, for your own personal safety, like where should I travel in the road? Where should I be in the road? Just keep thinking about it. And it will change from lane to road, from road to road. And finally, and this is something that we're about to start doing, I think, in bikeability, because we don't really like the fixed terms of secondary and primary, because it doesn't always apply. If you're cycling down a road which has got parked cars all down one side and all down the other side, like you get a lot in Dorking, there's no primary and secondary, is there? You can't be an arm's length from the curb because of the parked cars, and you can't be in the middle of your lane because you've got parked cars on the other side. So we're trying to get the kids now, because the point of bikeability is teaching independent decisions. It's trying to get the kids to think, where is the best position for me to cycle on this road? So not secondary, not primary. Where should I be so that I can share my space with other road users? So, and I guess that's what everyone should be doing, really.
That's it in a nutshell, really, isn't it? Is just being conscious and being aware. I think that's the main message that I'm getting from you tonight, Lisa, as well, is that we all enjoy our social rides as well, particularly, girls live girls, obviously, some of us, we like a little chat as we're riding along, but you've always got to be conscious, haven't you, of where you are in the road, what is around you, and that's how to keep yourself safe. So, and absolutely having that confidence of communicating clearly, I'm here, and this is the reason I'm here, and I've every right to be here, and being assertive, as you say, without needing to be aggressive. It's actually more helpful for other road users, isn't it?
Yeah. I always say to the kids, what message are you sending by being there or being there? What message do you think? And they go, oh yeah. I say, think about what that car thinks you're about to do. They're trying to work out what you're doing. Have you made it clear? And it all goes back to these 4 skills: looking behind, look behind, look around all the time. Look on your right shoulder, look at your left shoulder. Always looking. You might even get a sore neck from all the looking. Communication, we've spoken about it. Eye contact, turning your head, putting your arm out. Row positions, formal communication. Basically, your row position, obviously that's one of the key skills. And then priorities, who goes first, which as adults we're fine with because we drive cars. Remember, children don't drive cars, so it's different for them. But those 4 skills, that is it for cycle safety, really. That's it.
Lisa, thank you so much for that this evening. And we have just wrapped that up in 29 minutes. So we did a brilliant job.
I'm sorry, it's a bit over. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. Absolutely brilliant. If anybody has, we've got no questions in the chat box. You've obviously explained that really clearly. No, but I know that there will probably be questions after. So if you just want to pop any questions on Facebook afterwards or on YouTube, me and Lisa will come back to you with some answers. But thank you so much for watching, everyone, tonight. make sure you share that with your kids and anybody else that you cycle with. And we can't wait to get back out and cycle together very soon. Fingers crossed. Might only be a few weeks, but we'll see how we go. Thanks again, Lisa. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.